Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Security Testing Training by QualityLearning.in. I am Shan. I'm your organizer as well as the trainer for this particular course. In this session, we are going to talk about the very high-level overview of what security testing is all about. It's going to be an orientation session. What are the prerequisites and what you can expect out of this session. All right. So let's get started with the agenda. What we are going to talk about first is the prerequisites of this particular course, and what is security testing all about, what you can expect in this particular course, and areas under attack, and most importantly, the importance of security testing, why we need to do that apart from the things that we are aware of, and the principles of security testing and how to master this, and what you can expect from this course exactly, or a high-level roadmap or a quick snapshot of what we are going to do in this particular course. Right. So first things first, let's talk about prerequisites. So what we want is that we don't want a tester of beginner who is not that experienced in the field of software testing to start with this course. We won't recommend that. We want an intermediate to at least an expert level who at least understands the process clearly is what expected out of this particular session. And first thing is it's not just how we write test cases in manual testing. So you have a requirement. Let's say there is a login screen, go and test it. You put in your username, password, and click on submit button. Not that kind of workflow that we are going to talk about. So this always security testing is all about the mindset and thinking from a hacker's perspective, how a hacker would think. So that perspective is very, very important. So that comes over a period of time with experience, also knowledge in the software, especially in I would say like a kind of, if you have done white box testing is an added advantage. However, even if you haven't, that's fine. But if you know how programs are structured or how developers would write code, that will give you an upper hand in judging what they would have done in this particular module. So and then you can just try and penetrate into the system if there are any loopholes. So thinking is what very important. Change in the mindset, ensure that you are thinking from a hacker's perspective. And secondly, we will also need to understand how a database works. So these database basics are very, very important. It's not we are going to do database testing, but database, how the values are stored, or how to query it, how to think that what would be the default user IDs and passwords, all of those things, especially in the database front. And of course, the heart of this particular session, I would say, if you have a very good understanding of web technology is all about, is what we would recommend, in the sense how a web server works, how an app server works, how the client, the moment you hit, let's say www.google.com, how actually it renders in your browser. So the client is your browser, and it goes to the server google.com, and server understands what this particular client has asked for, and server sends back the response. So this particular behavior, or just I'm talking about a very high level, however, understanding of web technologies is very, very important. So these are all the three things I would say as a prerequisite, and a very specific prerequisite which I'd like to put forth is beginners are not recommended. If you are very new to the field or very new to the software industry, you may not pick up things unless you have hands-on, or unless you have an IT background. Let's say your education is part of IT, then it's fine. Or else this is good. This holds good, let's say, if you have at least a couple of years in the field of software, information technology. Right. So why security testing? Why we need to do security testing? Before that, I would like to share few things with you. So security testing is not just about finding security loopholes in your application, or not just what is it, assuring that the system is all perfect. No one would be able to penetrate into the system. It's not about that. Security flaws are not identified until it is identified. That's the key here. So it's not identified until it's identified. So if we are unable to do that, doesn't mean that system is perfect. Someone else will be able to do it. Now, if you see the top breaches in 2016, ADP is a payroll giant, and experienced a breach in May that a lot of companies who actually does the payroll processing with ADP, all their accounts have been breached. And even the government departments are not spared here. You can see here even FBI. People are keen. If you see the hacker's perspective, they're not just for just data or stealing information. They are there to prove the capabilities or to prove the vulnerabilities in the system. So they don't steal data and do play with it. It's pretty rare. Usually they are trying to prove how vulnerable the systems are. And even LinkedIn, which is a very popular social network, is hacked. And Yahoo, 500 million user accounts have been compromised. So what this shows exactly is that we should not be under an assumption that top companies usually have top security features, which means that no one will be able to penetrate into the system. No, that's not the case. Any application or any software or a product that is over the net, and any application developed by any company is prone to have security flaws. But how to identify them, how to mitigate them, it's all done over a period of time. So the number of breaches happened, let's say 10 years back, has not happened now, which means that security the features that they are developing, also they understand what are the flaws and they are trying to fix it up. At the same time, the cost of fixing the security defects have gone exponentially. If you see, each one of these are million accounts. So many million accounts have been hacked, which means the company is going to lose in billions even. So it's all about the reputation, not just about the money. If it is published that, let's say, LinkedIn and Yahoo is hacked, it's all about the reputation of the company than just the hack itself. Right. So now, if we see the areas of attack, there are various sides of it, I would say. First is mobile application and web application and wireless, which is a Bluetooth, and infrastructure flaws. You might also have operating system flaws, database. So whatever the components that interact or that we use on a day-to-day basis is all prone to attacks. The key here is we are just going to focus on web application security testing, or penetration testing is what I would call it as. We are not going to talk about infrastructure flaws. We are not going to talk about mobile application flaws, because the fundamentals of the web lies in the web technologies, which is most predominant in the market. So we'd like to concentrate on that, but we will also touch base a little bit on the mobile apps as well. But the applications under test, or the applications that we are going to discuss in terms of the hands-on or whatever it is all going to be a web application. It is not going to be a mobile app, is what I'm trying to say. So if you see the perspective of the security, it can be of the source of mobile, it can be source of infrastructure, or it can be a network device, and so on. But the key here is, for each one of these security, there is a team which actually does these core functionalities. Let's say for web applications, the software developers, architects, they understand how to actually develop a system foolproof as much as possible. But infrastructure team would take care of infrastructure security things, let's say proxy, with which, let's say, most companies block certain sites or suspicious sites, and how their mail servers usually catch the phishing emails very quickly, how effective their systems are. So network security, infrastructure wise, let's say we should not be getting a old servers, or we should be getting a server which is of this configuration, and our network should not be routed via this and that. So all of these are taken care of by infrastructure. So everyone has a part to play when we talk about security. But in a nutshell, we are just going to discuss about the um, web application security test. All right. If you see quickly the stages, or I would call it as the phases, we can start with the vulnerability scannings. There are a lot of scanners in the market, and there are security scanners as well, which will just give you a very high level report that what are all the areas that are loosely coupled and with which hackers can penetrate is what it would give. So using tools is not something that it is guaranteed that your application must be unsecured. In other words, there might be false positive as well. Let's say a tool reports there is a problem, but there may not be a problem. So always a manual intervention is required as far as the security testing reports are concerned. And there are a lot of scanners available, and these scanners, though they have the capabilities to scan even the source code, manual intervention, so doing it manually, is also recommended to identify the flaws. So pen testing, security auditing continuously. So it's not just in one build you can just verify, okay, this is all good and we can go for production. So build after build, you should not be introducing any security loopholes. So it should be constantly monitored and reviewed, and the steps to be taken in order to make your web application more secure. All right. So the more important is this particular slide. Why I'm here to talk, what is the significance of this slide is that it's not a standalone skill. That's what I have explained in the very first slide. So those security testers or security testers or auditors or risk officers are there. The number of openings of the positions are pretty small, which means a tester who is multi-skilled is what the industry is looking at the moment. It's not like a tester who is just doing security won't have as many openings as a tester who is comfortable doing both, let's say automation or performance and security, or automation and security. So it's usually, if we see in the industry, it's not a standalone skill. It's usually an added skill or an added advantage. And one thing we should always understand is that it's also part of a QA life cycle. But most companies, especially if you have worked in banks, big banks, or where IT is predominant, they consciously follow the security protocols, because it's not just the reputation of the bank, but it is going to cost everyone. So the QA lifecycle, it's part of QA lifecycle, and for every release, after release, or even a minor change is made to a proxy or to a routing or to any major network changes, all goes through the security protocols. Even new software that you introduce into a company, they are all checked for the security loopholes. Security consultants, there are security auditors and risk officers who usually work closely to ensure that the application is fit to be used across the organization. It's not like just we install it and just check it out, especially in finance industry. And only very few QA professionals focus on that. In the sense, if you see organization is having 100 testers, maybe handful, 2 or 3 or 4 people, maybe less than 5%, I would say, have focus on what security is all about. And it is a great add-on skill, as I said, and a key differentiator in your interviews. And it's not just knowing what, let's say, a SQL injection is, or let's say what cross-site scripting is. It's always important to know how exactly it is done and what is done to actually penetrate into the system, and also how to use the tools effectively to penetrate into the systems, or a couple of factors that I would highlight, which are very important for a security testing frame. So coming to the principles, first is think strategically, not tactically. It's not your functional testing, and test early and test often. So it's not just for security testing. We all know this as part of testers. So test early and test often. You should. It's not just for security, but even functional or even other non-functional, let's say performance. You should test early in the life cycle, and you should test it for every build or every release after release. And understand the scope of security. So let's say the ones that I have shown in the previous slides, you might have seen, what is my scope? There might be a wireless security, there may be a network or infrastructure or web application or mobile application, but security in a general context is very wide. You need to narrow it down, and for an application, we usually talk about the security features of the web application that is being developed. We will not talk about the server, we will not talk about the network security, but all of these things are added component of a security. But we will only focus on the web application side of it. And how to use, so if you see the source code, you should be able to excuse me, you should be able to see what source code does, and especially I'm talking about that white box testing. If you have access to source code, ensure that you just give it a go, see what's inside, how they have written, what is the architecture, how each one of the components interact. Usually in excuse me, usually in enterprise applications, there are a lot of moving parts. What I mean moving parts is that there would be a web server, there would be an app server, database, and there are a lot of other framework which themselves talk to, let's say a Node.js, or let's say an Angular framework or a .NET framework. So there are a lot of components that the industry uses to interact with the other components of the system. So whenever there is a source code available, just see how the connection is made. Let's say if there is a database connection that is being made, just check how the database connection is made. Or is it secured enough to make a connection? Is it a HTTP or HTTPS? What protocol that they use, which are very important. And then develop metrics and document the results. So it's as I conveyed earlier, it's not just about, okay, priority 1 test cases, we have 10 test cases, we will execute it, we will say like 80% of the system is functioning fine. No, it's not the case. When it comes to security, we should exactly record what we have done to reproduce the results. We can't say we can't reproduce. This is the biggest mistake everyone does. Like, I'll just go and just try to break the system. You might break it, but what you have done to break the system, well, that documentation is very important to reproduce, as well as to fix it up. In order to fix it up, we should be able to reproduce it. And most importantly, we need to know which components we are focusing on. Let's say we will target the app server first, we will target the web server, we will target the database, or we will target the input fields that we interact with. It can be any of these strategies, but ensure that we have the documentation in place. Go with a checklist based approach for as you start, and then try to do an ad hoc testing. Right. So very, very high level overview is the snapshot of what we are going to discuss in the upcoming sessions. It might take approximately 15 to 20 hours with complete hands-on. It's not just going to be a theoretical session. So we are going to talk about the protocols. We will discuss what the protocols, how protocols play an important role in the web application. What is encoding? What is encryption? What is hashing? And what we all know, like the any browser uses using cookies or cache for moment it interacts with the server. So what actually it does? What is the significance of having cookies? What are the security flaws around these particular cookies? And pen testing process, CAA, confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. And we will talk about the OWASP. OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. Top 10 vulnerabilities. So every year, OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, lists down the vulnerabilities in web application. What is the most used approach to break a web application? Or what is the most used approach and which has resulted in significant data loss or security loss for the company. So they list down the top 10. We are going to talk about the top 10, and also we will use make the most out of the lab sessions out of it. So even if there are developers in this particular forum, there are few exercises exclusively for developers that they can try it out. It's not just for testers, though we call it as security testing. We can reproduce it and developers can see the code and fix it up. And exploring the open source tools and techniques, we will also talk about some enterprise tools, how they work and what exactly is done on these tools. And you will also have a chance to implement or try out the techniques on a sample web application for the challenge round. So in a very basic context, it is going to be a practical based and highly focused content, which is going to definitely make a difference to your understanding from security perspective. So before we move on, I would like to take up questions. If you have got any questions, please feel free to put it in your question and answer sessions. I'm happy to take up the questions for now, but this is what the high-level overview is all about, and you can email to the qualitylearning.in. You can see the website, the contact information, and you can also ask for the details about these course and course contents if you wish. But before we wrap up, if you have got any questions, I'm happy to take it up to you. I know it's a very basic, but it is very informative session on a very high level of what we are going to do. So yeah, one of the questions that I've got is, do you need any special tools to be installed? Yeah. So to answer this question precisely, yeah, there are a lot of tools that we would be working on, not just tools, plugins, and even your browser is one of the tools. You would be surprised to hear that how we are going to use the browser effectively. So we will be using all the tools that we discuss as and when we discuss a particular approach. You can just understand how it is done. It's not one specific tool that I can mention, but it's a combination of tools. So it's not a one tool. Let's say Selenium is for automation, QTP is for desktop-based app automation. It's not like that. We will keep changing tools for each technique so that you understand the significance of each one of those areas. Any other questions, team? All right. I haven't got any questions from any one of you. If you have any, just feel free to put it in the questions tab. You have a questions tab there. You can see in your go to webinar control panel. You can put in your question and I'm happy to answer. Before we wrap up, So one of the questions, when is the next session? Yeah, next session, I think once you email them, or you will get a communication by tonight, I guess, about the next session. We are giving the viewers some time also to before we start the actual full length sessions. Maybe it will be a couple of days, maybe early next week. So it depends on the response that we get. And what is WASP vulnerabilities? Next question. Um, so if you see, WASP vulnerabilities is, as I said, Open Web Application Security Project. So every year they list down the top 10 security flaws. That's OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. It's an open source project, contributors across the globe by developers, also testers who develop, who actually maintain this whole project. So it's all about the vulnerabilities, the attack vectors, how to resolve things like that. So will pen tests, next question is, will pen tests depend on programming language they are returning? Not exactly, but person who is actually doing a pen test has to have a programming knowledge, not very in-depth, at least a basic programming skill, I would say, so that in case if you want to write a quick JavaScript, you can do that. So, and the next question is, product is returned. Okay, so yeah, I think I have answered your question. So pen test doesn't depend on what programming language it is returning. It depends on the person who is actually doing the security testing. So if you have a basic programming knowledge, you will definitely be able to understand what's going on, what they would have done to make it work this way. All right. And about the fees, again, about the fees and the sessions, you will be getting the intimation soon, or you can even email the contact details from the qualitylearning.in website. Any other questions, team? And one more question is, Selenium testers have chances to get into security testing? Sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you please come up again? Selenium testers. You mean to say, like, do Selenium testers have a chance to get into security testing? So it's not like Selenium testers. I would say it's automation testers on the whole, but it's nothing to do with the Selenium here. But it's absolutely depending upon the individual's interest. So whatever the course contents that we are putting here is just going to be a beginning for you. Honestly, I'm telling you, automation itself is a ocean, but security is a very big ocean, I would say. It's all tips, tricks, and whatever the things that you call it as. It's not just going to be a checklist based approach, or we are going to talk about, okay, if you do A, B, and C, you will get D. No, it's not going to be that kind of testing here. Always you need to think a little bit out of the box. You need to keep doing things on the same scale in a similar way, so that you will get hang of what you are doing, and you can even hack more website or the application after test. So whatever we are doing is for ethical purpose, should not be misused. Of course, we have the responsibility to convey. It's and you are ensuring that whatever you are doing, because everyone's IP is pretty open. Anyone can, even day before yesterday, we all know that one of the Congress leaders' Twitter account got hacked. So, but still they are able to track where that particular hack has originated. So IP addresses are always open. So we are just doing this to understand the security testing front, just for learning purposes, only for ethical purposes, and you would be applying only on your job where actually security testing is recommended to you, so you can rise as an issue. So the next question that I've got is, if that is the case, how we are going to do this under application? Yeah, we will install the application on your own laptop. So whatever the application that I am going to show you or how it is done, it will be installed in my own PC. It's configured, I mean. So it's a web application which would be configured, and we will definitely show you how it is done. So it's going to be local than just on some website on internet. But moment you understand all of these concepts, it is so much inviting that you will definitely go and try it out on the websites that are there on net. All right. So any other questions, team? Can this be modified to trainer approaching the organization? So can this be modified to in-house training while trainer approaching the organization? Of course, you can contact, the contact details are there on our website. You can just contact us, and we are happy to provide the help and support from our end. Right, any other questions that you would like to ask before we wrap up for the day? Cool. You all will be getting this recorded session, what we have done so far, and also what you can expect, course fee, course contents, everything would be emailed. So keep watching, and hope to see you all soon, and have a great day ahead. Thank you, team. Thanks for joining.